Hello there, so in this video I'm going to explain how to drive from the UK to Spain. A lot of the stuff I go through here could be applied if you're going to drive into France, into Germany, into Italy, other parts of Europe, etc. However, I will particularly focus on driving from the UK to Spain, just because that's what I did last year. I made a video about this as well, it's in the description and the comments. And after putting this video out there, I've had a lot of comments and questions around the logistics, the planning, the costs, etc. So I thought I'd make a video, package the whole thing up, hopefully it'll be useful for you. So I'm going to break this video down into 4 key sections, starting with firstly your vehicle, what you're going to drive down there. Secondly, the documentation needed. Thirdly, your route. And then fourthly, your costs, which is very much entwined with the route that you choose. So without further ado, let's get going. So first of all, what vehicle are you going to drive down there? You could hire a car in England and then drive into Europe, into France and into Spain. However, it gets quite expensive with doing that, because if you're going to pick up a car in London, drive down to, let's say, Valencia, I did Manchester to Valencia, then you drop it off in Valencia, you'll be charged quite a high fee if you're going to drop it off in a different place. And some places don't even let you do that. So, or you can hang on to your car for a long time, but they're going to charge you every single day. So you might want to bring your own car and have a longer stay in wherever you're going to go to. And that's what I did. So I drove my Hyundai Tucson 1.7 litre diesel down from Manchester to Valencia, 1,300 miles, and it was absolutely fine. So it was around a 6-year-old car, I think at the time. It was last year I did the actual drive. So I think most cars would be fine. I would say I had my MOT done just before going, because it was going to expire when I was in Spain. So after having the MOT, I kind of thought, well, at least it's past MOT, there's nothing glaringly wrong with the car. So I feel quite confident now in doing this big trip. You could get new tyres, you could get a service done, probably oil and water. I would advise doing that, just make sure. I had it all checked out myself just before doing quite a big trip. It's quite a lot of wear and tear on the vehicle. And that's it really, to be honest. It was as simple as that. I was confident my car was going to do the journey, and it was actually fine. It was very, very comfortable. Driving on the other side of the road, what's that like? Loads of people have asked me that. I actually prefer it to driving a left-hand drive car, so driving like a European car, because you're on the right-hand side of the road in a right-hand side car. It just feels quite comfortable, and I felt like I knew what I was doing. I didn't get confused. You know, when you drive a Spanish or a French car, you go for the gear stick and it's normally there, but in the end you're undoing the window or something like that. So really, I found it really quite comfortable, to be honest. I just thought right hand side, and there was no real issue at all. So I wouldn't be worried about that. Yeah, first of all, bit of adjustment, but generally speaking, wasn't a concern. So I would say use your own car, get it checked, and just be confident that you're going to actually be able to do the journey. Okay, so documentation. This is a bit boring, but this is very important, and there's a good guide that I'll link in the descriptions, which is it's from the RAC. That's what I use to go through all the kind of checklist of items. So I'll rattle through these now. So you've got your driving license. Make sure you've got a driving license and it's valid. Passport. Need your passport. Going to other countries. Your insurance. So all I did, I'm with Admiral Insurance. I rang up my insurer and I said, I'm going to be driving into Europe. What is the situation here? And all they said to me was, give us a call the day before you go to let us know when you are going to be arriving in France, and then you've got 90 days there, and if you need to extend it, just give us a call towards the end of your trip and we can talk about an extension. And that was it. So it's kind of part of my policy. So speak to your insurer, just see what's part of your policy. You might need to add it on or something like European insurance, but my policy was a bog standard, fully comprehensive Admiral Insurance car insurance, and I just had to call them up, and that was all it was. It did say to bring your policy with you. I didn't know where my paper one was, so I just brought my online one. I didn't need it, but that's what is advised, to make sure you've got that to hand. Bring your V5 registration document, so that's just the document to say that you own the car. I didn't need it again, but it does say bring that along, just in case you hit any kind of issues at a checkpoint or any kind of, with the police, for example. So bring that along. Then you've got some slightly odd European laws. So first one is this, the warning triangle. So this is the thing it comes in. You get this from Halfords. All these bits are in Halfords. It's like a really good Euro travel section. I don't know how much this cost me, to be honest with you. I think it was about £5–10. But this is for if you break down, and this is a legal requirement. There you go. If you break down, you need to put this at the back of your car. So just to warn some oncoming traffic that is coming towards you. So that's a legal requirement for when you break down, and you need to have it there in case you don't. So that's something that is enforced in many countries, definitely France, definitely Spain, and I'd imagine Germany and all those sort of countries also would want to have this. So that's very important, the triangle. Need a high vis, got one here. So I think everyone knows what high vis is, but you need to have high vis for if you break down. You need to have one per person in the car, so the driver and every passenger needs to have a high vis. That's very important, and even in Spain actually they're quite hot on this. You'll find high vises in cars everywhere. So yeah, they love a high vis in Europe, so make sure you've got one, or just bring 4 or 5, whatever you need. In France, you need to have a breath test. All this is available at Halfords. The breath test is about £2, and that is for if the police stop you in France and they want to do a breathalyzer alcohol test, they'll charge you for using their own one. I don't know how much it is, but let's say it's €100. They'll charge you for it unless you've got your own one. So I bought 2, and I've lost them now. I don't know where they are. I didn't need to use them, but have them to hand because it just cost £1 or £2 from Halfords, just in case you get stopped and they want to do a breathalyzer test. Breath test, now UK sticker. So just literally a sticker that says UK stuck on the back of your car. This is a requirement, even if you've got UK or GB on your number plate. You need to have that UK sticker on the back of your car, £1 from Halfords. I've got a list down here of all my bits and pieces. Headlight beam adapters. Now this is important. So we're driving in a UK car. So your right-hand drive and your headlights, they kind of go towards the side of the road. Not very good at explaining this. They go off the road. Rather than them point directly in the front of the traffic, so they get in everyone's eyes, they kind of go the other way. So if you're driving on the other side of the road, now your lights are going in the eyes of the oncoming traffic. So you need to put some stickers on your headlights to divert the beam away, you see. So when you buy it, it needs to be applied as soon as you get to France, and there's a guide on where to put it, because obviously different cars, different positions, different stickers. Again, Halfords, I think it was about £2, and you stick them on when you get to France. That's it. But that is actually really important. I was told that's a really important thing to have. And then I think that's most bits that I had to follow. There is a guide, and there's a few other little bits, but they were less important. I'll put the guide in the description. One thing to bear in mind is speed limits. Now, obviously, they use the kilometres per hour out in Europe, not miles per hour. So it might say 120. That doesn't mean 120 miles per hour. It's in Germany, I think you can go on the autobahn really fast, but yeah, kilometres per hour and the speed limit's a bit different. So yeah, just don't get caught going really, really fast on the motorway. That's the documentation. Now let's talk about the route. Okay, so the route, and very much linked to this, is your costs. So what I'll do is I'll tell you what I did, and there's a few decisions you can make on the way, a few choices. So I can give you those choices and you can sort of tailor your own route to suit yourself. So what I did is I drove from Manchester, I started in Manchester to London, and that took me 4 hours, and I stayed in London for 2 days because I was seeing family. Then I drove on my official day 2 of travelling. I drove from London to Dover, 2 hours. I got the ferry, 2 hours roughly, and then I drove from Calais to Poitiers in the middle of France, which was another 8 hours of driving in France. And I got to Poitiers and I stopped and I stayed the night. Woke up in Poitiers and I had about 7.5 hours drive on my official day 3, where I drove down all the way down southern France, crossed the border into Spain, and then I stopped in a town right in the north of Spain called Jaca, and I stayed there overnight as well. And then I woke up on my official day 4 of travelling. I drove 5 hours, I think it was, 5 hours to Valencia. 5, maybe 6, but I think it was only 5 hours to Valencia. And then I was done. And Valencia's kind of halfway down Spain. So my total journey time travel time was about 28 hours, 28 hours. And it was 1,300 miles. Now, the first decision to make is how do you want to get into France? Now, there's different ferries. You can go to Dover, to Calais. You can also go to Newhaven, to Dieppe. And there might be some others, slightly more obscure ones, but most people will probably go to Dover. So the ferry, the choice is the ferry or the Eurotunnel. So I chose to get a ferry. The ferry took 1.5 hours actually moving, and it cost me £70. The Eurotunnel is faster, 35 minutes. It's where you drive your car on that train and it just goes through the tunnel. Just 35 minutes. But that costs £140, £150. So I thought, right, I'm going to save myself here, let's say £70 for an hour, being an hour slower. And I kind of wanted to go on a ferry, just to I haven't been on a ferry for ages. So that was the first decision there, ferry or Eurotunnel. And then the second big decision, and this is quite a big decision, is do you want to go non-toll or on the toll roads? Now I chose to go on the non-toll roads because obviously they're free. However, the toll roads are quicker. They are 3 hours quicker for the route I was looking at anyway. So with 3 hours faster, total journey time's 20 hours. So mine was 20 hours. It would have been 17 if I went on the toll road. But the tolls cost around £130, £150 if you're going to go tolls all the way through France. So, I mean, you could do a mixture of the two. You might not want to go every single toll road. I went strictly non-toll because I just thought, look, I'm going to save £70 by getting the ferry. I'm going to save £130 by going non-toll. That's £200. That's going to pay for my accommodation and my food pretty much. So that's why I sort of sacrificed 4 hours extra, which I didn't think was that much across 4-day trip, to save myself £200. The mileage of the non-toll and the toll exactly the same. So I thought, look, the non-toll was more scenic. You had more country lanes and you saw a bit more. A bit slower, fine, but really I saved a bit of money there. So that's the second key decision. It's ferry against Eurotunnel, and then it's non-toll against toll, whatever works for you. Now, the next part is hotels. So I booked hotels as I went. So I got to Poitiers in France, and I was literally outside the hotel and booking it because I had like a mobile discount thing. And then in Hakka, I think I was about 2-3 hours away, and I booked it on my phone online, and then I turned up. The reason I did that is just because if I'd booked this, all in advance, I could have broken down, I could have hit massive traffic and all that kind of stuff. And I just didn't want to pigeonhole and pin myself into like a hotel booking. It just made it more stressful. I've done trips in Europe before. I've booked as I've gone, and I've never had a problem just booking on the day, maybe the day before, but I was booking on the day, and there's always a place available. So that's what I did, and that's probably what I'd recommend doing as well. Okay, so finally, the costs. What did the trip cost from going from Manchester to Valencia in Spain? So I spent £200 on diesel. My ferry cost me £70. My hotel's total price, £105. I spent £70 in Poitiers, and I spent about £35 in northern Spain. It's cheaper in Spain. So it was about £105. And then food, I didn't spend much. In Poitiers, I had like a McDonald's thing for dinner. In Hakka, I had an evening meal out, but it wasn't very expensive. I had a few beers as well, but it's like £1, £2 a beer in most of Spain. So overall, I probably spent about £70 on my food and drink. And in the car, I was very cheap. I wasn't buying things here and there. I was instant coffee, a flask of hot water. I was making sandwiches, so I really didn't spend much money at all, to be honest. And you could control this. You could spend more or less, up to you. So really, with diesel, with the ferry, with the hotels, and with food and drink, I probably spent about £450 on this trip. So if someone was to say to me, how much would you budget to do this trip? I would say, well, what I did, I'd say £500 budget, basically. But it would have cost me £200 more if I'd got the Eurotunnel and gone fully on the toll roads as well. So that's why I wanted to limit the cost a little bit and keep it to beneath £500. So there's my costs. Okay, so the final thing I wanted to add in was just my own tips and considerations around doing this kind of trip. And the first one is, are you going to travel alone or with other people? Doing all the driving yourself is quite tiring. I found it, the first day especially, doing a big drive into France, it was quite tiring. If I was able to split the journey, then it would have been far easier. So it's something to consider. That said, I actually really enjoyed driving by myself, adventure by yourself. It felt like an adventure. And I was generally fine driving. Just splitting the driving would have made a difference. If you're traveling with kids, I would advise more stops, maybe taking the toll roads to kind of speed up time on the road. that would be my consideration, because I did drive back with my son, who at the time was like about a year old, and it was sometimes a bit of a struggle. We stopped more on the way. And the third one was just the driving quality. In England and then in France, kind of the same. I'd say the French are actually pretty polite drivers, actually. Lots of giving way, lots of thank yous, didn't drive recklessly at all, really. The whole of France was really good. But the moment I crossed the border into Spain, it all went really fast, and it was incredibly fast. People overtaking, switching lanes, no indication. People were like driving bumper to bumper at 70 miles per hour or more. Yeah, it was a different thing. People flashing, just a more aggressive place to drive. I think Italy is famous. I've driven in it actually. Italy is famous for being kind of like that. It's that southern European temperament on the road. So that's just something just to note, is when you do, if you do cross into Spain, you will see a difference in the driving. So yeah, just be prepared for that. So overall, I hope this video helps your trip. If I've missed anything, if you've got any other questions, then please do leave a comment and I will respond to you. I say I'm not the expert in this, but I've done a few drives in Europe now. So hopefully I've given you some tips and advice that you can take into your own trip. Thanks very much for watching, and maybe see you in the next video.